because she didn't perform very well the first night.
Yeah, in the
So she
qualification.
tried like, I'm gonna go out on top, not.
Well, she did the vault, but apparently it didn't do well, and so that's why she wanted it.
You haven't started the session yet, have you, Chris?
I just did. I was waiting for it. Was give me this.
Give us a little. Leave a light when we're on.
On air.
Live.
Okay. All right, so we'll pick up where we left off. Sorry, there were technical difficulties that kept you from hearing properly. Hopefully those have been resolved. I think we're finishing up talking about the education. Did you have any more to add before we go on to the operations too?
And then operations, nothing out of the ordinary with that as well.
All right.
Everything now.
Okay, so we'll move on then if there are no other questions about the education or operations funds in the 2022 budget review. So, Dr. Coon, keep on rolling here.
Yeah, I don't know what you have on your first slide.
Yeah, I'm trying to help with
Funds budget draft.
Okay, so this is the draft of the operation fund budget estimates. And just again, this, for some of you guys that are new to this, these numbers don't reflect actual dollars. These numbers are appropriations of what we are requesting to spend. The DLGF, once we submit this, the DLGF basically takes what our estimated expenditures or think are going to be, and then what our estimated revenue thinks it's going to be, and then they come back and tell us that you can only spend or have the appropriations of this much dollars. Okay, so appropriations just give us the authority to spend. We may have more money than that. We may have, typically we wouldn't have less money than that, but that's the amount that we're allowed to spend within that budget year. And if we wanted to spend more than that, then we have to go through a whole other process of additional appropriations and so forth. And so part of the process is to over ask for things, because once they shift everything out of things that we don't know about, such as assessed valuation, then they come out with a number based off that information that tells us what we're allowed to spend. And so these are the estimates then that we are proposing for our operations fund budget. The first column shows what we're advertising or what we are anticipating for 2022, and then the far right column then shows what we adopted last year as far as what we advertised, I guess. And so that just gives you a little bit of comparison from year to year. Sometimes it changes a lot, sometimes it doesn't change a lot, but you always have a little bit of inflation costs in there for things like fuel costs and utility costs and those type of things. Remember, everything that's spent out of this budget are capital projects, transportation items, bus replacement, salaries and benefits that go along with those items, like maintenance and custodial staff, bus drivers, bus aides, mechanics, central office staff, such as Mike and myself, and payroll people. So those kind of salaries, and then you also have your insurance costs, your utility costs, and then anything that would also be considered overhead or non-educational instructional costs is all funded out of the operations fund. So those things are on there. Things that we used to have to list on here, but we don't list it on here anymore, are tax cap impacts and transfers from education fund to operations fund. We no longer put it in the budget estimate, but we do put it in what we call the Form B form, and so forth, as part of that process. So that's why it shows it on there, but it shows zeros, because that is reported somewhere else now, as part of that process. So as far as tax cap impacts are concerned, last year, we were hit pretty heavily with tax impacts. Still, not terrible, but it almost doubled. It did double in our tax caps. I think it was $180,000 of tax cap impacts, which would be monies that we did not receive because people had hit their tax cap threshold, and so that money was never recovered or collected, I guess I should say. And then as far as transfers are concerned, obviously we have that rule that we need to stay under the 15%, which I do anticipate us being able to do that again this year. It'll be a very similar amount as it was this past year when it comes to those transfers. So the budget will reflect 8.9 million, but it typically usually gets reduced to around $6 to $7 million from that. And then that's where things like some of those bonds come in handy, because the areas that get reduced in are the more expensive things, which are usually the capital project portions of stuff. And then we can offset that difference a lot of times with the bond monies to continue to do facility upgrades and fix up things that we need to do and so forth. Any questions with this form right here? So again, this is just an estimate. Some things may change down the road here in the next few weeks, but eventually we'll bring an exact amount when we do our budget hearing. Okay, next slide.
What do I do next?
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're done with the operations. Okay, so then the next thing that we have to present and advertise are our bus replacement plan and capital projects plan. So we used to have to advertise this in the newspapers. We no longer have to do that. However, we have to advertise it on Gateway and on our website 10 days before we have our budget hearing. And so I am anticipating our budget hearing to be September 14th, unless something changes. If something changes with that, then I'll have to change the advertisement date on there before we post it to our website and Gateway. But that's just the notice of when that budget hearing will possibly be. And then if you go ahead and switch it, Mike. This first slide shows what our capital expenditures. Let me put the camera on it a little bit tighter for people at home. This shows what our capital expenditures would be over $10,000, okay? So it doesn't list any of the ticky-tacky stuff or stuff less than $10,000, but we need to show what things we anticipate in our capital project plan over the next 3 years. So this doesn't mean that this is this year, but over the next 3 years, anything that we anticipate to spend over $10,000 is listed in that section. And then the next section is more focused on projects, not necessarily an actual asset, but something bigger over that 3-year period. And again, the estimated amount there is listed in an estimated start and end date for when that project may or may not take place. Things obviously can get shifted and moved around based off of needs and priorities, but that just kind of lays out some things to be looking at over the next 3 years. And we may do those things and we may not do those things. A lot of it depends on the amount of monies that we have at the time and what's needed and what's not needed. But we still have to list things out, even if we plan on and anticipate doing those at some point over the next 3 years. And then this just breaks it down. This is a form that we don't really have to submit anymore. It's not required, but I still do it because it breaks it down a little bit more specifically by building. It doesn't get as specific as what the details are, but you can see what the amounts are based off of in certain categories, like utility costs and those types of things per building. So list that for all our buildings, including Heartland. We do give some of our capital project monies over to Heartland for some of their capital expenses, which they bill us for as well. So we include that as part of our capital project plan.
Question, how do you get the current value from just,
Of
like the buildings like Sharp Creek and?
some of that's based off of information that we've already received from like Art and Co.
Okay.
When we talked about some of those things. A lot of it's from Steve when he may call somebody and ask about, hey, we need to do a parking lot here, this many square feet, what do you think it might cost? And then some of it's just from Steve has a pretty good historical fact of, oh, we spent this much last time, we did something similar to this, so it'll probably be roughly around here. So this portion just kind of gives you a little bit more specific about some building things. And I do this more from my perspective, but also think it's good to share for you guys to see. So this is a utilities cost comparison over the past 5 years, just to kind of see how our utilities have adjusted over a period of time. And then it can give you in the comparison chart, and you can go to that on your own. We don't have to do that here. It'll break it down a little bit more specifically by building and whether it was like an electricity cost or a natural gas cost or a water cost, where this kind of lumps all that in together with that. You can obviously, with COVID, and we had the shutdown of school for a couple months, that saved some money there from a normal year. Then I like to give a representation of what each building costs were for last year, for 2020. So this lays out how much we spent at each building, how much of that was related to salary and benefits, how old the building is, and the occupancy of the building from 2020. Just to give a little bit of comparison of what our costs are per building. And then if you go to that link there, it gives you a little bit more of a breakdown of some of those costs of the projects that we listed on the capital projects plan. And then Steve kind of goes through and lists like what may be more of a priority than the others. And that's what helps group us and try to decide, okay, do we want to try to do this in year 1? Or do we want to do this and look to do this in year 3 and that type of stuff. So that's kind of some information that we use when we're building that capital project plan. And then the bus replacement plan, this also changed a few years ago. We used to list out our bus replacement costs over a 12-year period because that was the lifespan of a typical bus. But now we only are to do it over a 5-year period, which has helped in getting better estimate costs on what buses are. And so this is the form that we would advertise as far as our bus replacement plan is concerned. But if you look at the next slide, this is the old form. This is the 12-year plan that I still use. It breaks it down to a little bit more specifics, just for our own knowledge. The red are the buses that we're salvaging or are getting rid of or have gotten rid of. And the yellows are the buses that are what we consider spare buses in our fleet. And then eventually, we'll just continue to delete and add as buses are replaced over that period of time. Any questions with the bus replacement? And then the last thing here is our annual finance report. We do 2 annual finance reports, one for the State Board of Accounts and one for the Indiana Department of Education. They're both different. I don't know why, but they are. And so this is the annual financial report by law that we are required to advertise in the newspaper and on our website. And so these are the expenses and revenues and all kinds of information that is given about our district finances over the year 2020. And so,
Is that calendar year, Chris? Is it?
yeah, it's based on the calendar year. So there are certain things that we are reporting. The legislators did allow us to make changes to this report so that we don't have to advertise the whole report. We have to advertise the whole report on our website, but as far as the newspaper advertisement is concerned, we can do a different form to advertise that in the newspaper, which is a little more condensed, but it's really not much that different. So instead of spending $800 to advertise it, it may only cost us $600 to advertise it. But those are the requirements for the things that are needed to be reported to the Department of Education and advertised to our public. So I guess as far as my asking is concerned, I'm just asking for approval for advertisement of the things that we have to advertise, which would be the capital projects plan, the bus replacement plan, and the AFR.
I'll move to approve Chris's request to advertise.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve Chris's request to advertise the capital projects fund, the bus replacement plan, the capital projects plan, the bus replacement plan, and the annual financial report. All in favor, say aye. Moving on to personnel. Under resignation, we have Patsy Arwood, cook at Southfield High School. Melissa Allen, credit recovery study hall aide at Northfield. Amy Siders, math teacher at Northfield High School. Rita McCracken, cook at Southfield Elementary. Jenna Morissette, cook at Southfield Elementary. Tim Morissette, bus driver at South Schools. Lori Brewer, secretary at Southfield High School. And Melissa Allen, girls varsity basketball coach at Northfield High School. Under employment, we have Ashley Harris, bus driver for the South Schools. Jessica France, math teacher at Northfield High School. Cheryl Shenafield, 3-hour cook at Southwood. Jama Garcia, speech and language pathologist, WMAP. Rhonda Bolton, 4-hour cook at Northfield High School. Allison Rosemeyer, secretary bookkeeper at Sharp Creek Elementary. Taylor Zimmerman, social studies teacher at Northfield High School. Kaylee Stiff, first grade teacher at Metro North Elementary. Amanda Rasmussen, 5.5-hour cook at Southfield Elementary. And Jessica Brewer, computer science teacher at Northfield and at Southfield High School. Under retirement, Donna Millspaw, attendance secretary at Northfield High School. Transfers, Monica Kuhn transferring from secretary at Sharp Creek Elementary to data financial specialist at WMAP. Stacy Bone transferring from Metro North Elementary first grade teacher to Sharp Creek Elementary third grade teacher. Kat Hoppert transferring from Metro North halftime music teacher to Northfield High School English teacher. Megan McKillop transferring from library aide to office attendant secretary at Northfield High School. Under coaches for the 2021-22 season, these are all at all at Southwood High School. Tanya Boone, head cross country. Danny Bassus, junior high cross country. David Snyder, head football coach. Nick Driscoll, assistant football coach. Doug Martin, Corey Blocker, and Zach Ball, Jeffrey Finnicle, all assistant football coaches. Tom Finnicle, head volleyball. Grant Lange-Bartles, assistant volleyball. Delane Ball, Karen Tinkle, also assistant volleyball. Stephanie Hacker, junior high volleyball. Rachel Hurst, junior high volleyball. Gina Deaton, junior high volleyball. Sierra Tresca, head cheer. Becca Dillon, junior high volleyball. Jonathan Collins, assistant cross country. Alyssa Pershin, elementary volleyball. Haley Cayley, assistant cheer. Jesse Houston, assistant cheer. DJ Marshall, junior high football, and Danny Lloyd, junior high football, and Tim Drake, head JV volleyball. Under coaches for this coming school year at Northfield High School, we have Kat Hoppert, head volleyball, assistant volleyball, Shelley Myers, Brett Evans, and Hillary Velzra. Brandon Baker, head football, Brian Inyard, assistant football, along with Eric Weichel, Stan Cox, Tori Schaefer, Shane Viger, Jeff Camphuse, Josh Moore, Matt Burkett, and Josh Moore. Those are all junior high football. Assistant football, there's a lot to read here. Junior high football, Matt Burkett and Jim Curry, Kyle Oswalt and Jim Mitchell for junior high football, Kevin Lemming, junior high cross country. This lists Cody McClure, head golf at cheer for girls head golf. Is that still current?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Allison Rosemeyer, head cheer. Deb Schenkel, assistant cheer. Haley Zolman, junior high cheer, and Rex Reimer, head varsity boys basketball coach.
Very good. Can I mention a couple? First of all, resignations. I know everyone has a story. I do want to mention Amy Siders, math teacher. She's been working on her administrative license, and so she's moving on to Marion Community Schools to be administrator there. It's math coach, so it's a little bit different administrator than what we're used to, but that's what she's doing. And also just wanted to thank Donna Millsball in her retirement as attendant secretary. I know I was there with her for 4 years. Very, very personal, great lady, great with all the kids and the staff there, and we will definitely miss her, but she'll be spending more time now in retirement with her family and husband and her grandkids. So
I move to the slate.
Second?
We have a motion and second to approve the slate of HR as read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Heartland Career Center report, Matt.
I have none.
Okay. Superintendent's report, Mr. Kefever.
just some real quick items. First of all, just a reminder that tomorrow is the last day for our summer feed, and actually the Wabash Plain Dealer is asking for some of the statistics, and I will give that. I gave that to you last time, so I won't do it again, but thousands and thousands of meals. So we thank all the food service department for doing that. Also, registration began yesterday, and on-site will be next Monday, South schools, and then next Wednesday for the North schools. We typically don't have too many that are doing it at the schools anymore because so many of our community, they do have internet access, and they also have the computers and the devices to do all that. So we're looking forward to everyone registering for this school year. Our new teacher orientation, Mr. Drake takes care of that. That's going to be a fairly large group. A lot of us, because we have several retirements, about, I believe, 11 teachers that retired this year. So we'll have at least that many plus others that have moved on, plus maybe some added positions. So that will be next Wednesday. And then going backwards a little bit, August 2nd is the first day for whites. And so that's next Monday. And then we also have August 9th is our opening day for our certified staff. Dr. Tony Giaquinta will be our keynote speaker. And then the following day, on August 10th, which is 2 weeks from today, is when we greet all of our students. And that's also board meeting night. So that's it for now.
New students or transfer students, they can do that totally online then? Or did I understand they have to come into the school?
Yeah, and hopefully the messages and everything that we're getting, when they call us and ask us those questions, and we let them know too. So no, they cannot do it online because they have to have the passwords to get into Skyward, which we would not have any information for.
Yeah, I just wanted it to be convenient.
Okay, that's all I have there. Ooh.
Curriculum and instruction report, Mr. Gray.
Yeah, actually, I've got a few things. I do want to point out Jessica Brewer. You guys just approved her to be the computer science teacher. For the veterans on the board, you might remember when we first started Dex Robotics and we introduced those teams at the elementary and they got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we added computer gaming and we kind of have grown that. And so we talked to Dr. Kuhn and Mr. Kefever, we added a position. So that is a brand new position we've not had in the district before. And I'm really excited with the gal we got. She's a Purdue grad, so, you know, I can only expect so much, but, you know, she comes to us as a transition to teacher. And so while she's at Purdue, she had a fabulous internship helping a company in Canada mine uranium. And so she did a lot of the technological portions of that, and it went so well, they sent her to Argentina to try to mine uranium. The economy crashed, that company went down, and so she then turned to GIS and a lot of farming implements with technology, and so she has a huge, wide range of technology coming in, and she's super energetic, so she's gonna help with the Vex robotics, she's gonna help with the computer gaming, and she's gonna help introduce computer science. And so this year, for the first time, Northfield will have Computer Science 1. We've had that on the south side because of staffing. And so with her traveling back and forth. And so that's a huge step. And hopefully she keeps growing the program. So I just want to make sure you guys caught that. Before I get to the next part, I don't know, is there anything, Mr. Kefever, you want to say about this before I get started?
You go ahead.
All right, so this board has been very encouraging about us promoting our stories and telling that, and I think Mr. Kefever will talk to you guys more about this later. But what you have in front of you is a flyer that's going to be mailed out to the county. And so everybody's going to get this. And I just want to address my portion of it there on the back. Promoting our early college success. We don't get quite the media coverage that other schools around us get for being early college, but we have a lot of success in that world. And so, so you can see that, and then those are Island scores there, and you can see where we're at, and just kind of where we stack. We feel like we need to tell our story academically, especially in the county and in the city. Sometimes that doesn't get carried through, and so I feel like this is in response to your guys' prodding a lot of that, and so.
And one thing I want to say too is this can all be found, and obviously the sources are listed there. So this isn't something that we just pulled off from anywhere. You can anybody can go in and look at this data. And then this is more Dr. Kuhn's area, the Education Fund, the Operations Fund. But one thing is anybody can go to this, and the source is the Indiana Gateway that you can go in and find all this information. Sometimes we look at where we're strong, and another place that we're strong is financially, and so that just lists that there also. So, and we can talk about it more later, but
there will be on our website, there'll be more information,
Right.
more explanation of some of this data, and probably more graphs.
Is that
You can
what
only fit so many
is that what you have on there?
in a postcard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Laura, who does a much better job of this than I think any of us could do, right? So she created this. This is what everybody will see, And for those that are curious to see more, there will be information there. You can see on the back, it says go to msdwc.org/about. And so if you go to the web page, then we have built, she built it, I shouldn't take any credit for it. She built then what you see here on these pages. I just went ahead and printed it out for you so you can have a copy of it. And so this gives you a little bit more detailed, a couple more graphs, and the explanations there, and all of them have links. Like if you look at the early college success rates, the very first one, at the bottom, it says at their website. If you were on a computer and you click that, you would go directly to the site. And then you can go verify that on your own. So each one of these has those links at the bottom so people can go and see them and then explore on their own and verify the data and make sure it's not reliable from us, it's reliable from the Department of Education. And so I'll give you just a second if you want to look through some of those on the printout sheet. Actually, I guess even on the flyer too. I don't know if you have any questions or comments you want to make about that.
Who all will get these,
Everyone in the county.
including the city?
Yes.
Every resident?
Everybody. Everybody. Plus, it will actually go out a little further than that, to other counties too, that we kind of touch different places. So obviously we do touch 8 different school districts, so
When do you look for it to go out, the mailing?
it's this week.
She sent it out, so
Yeah.
I would assume the next couple of days.
Because it'd be nice to get it in the window of registration.
Yeah.
You're on her page. That's exactly where she was. And so I worked with her today on my side of this website that you would click to if you got that. And she was really adamant about getting this out today prior to people receiving the mailer. And so I think she anticipates it doing well.
Yeah, and we worked on this last week, a lot of remotely stuff, but we worked on it last week too, so it'll be completed, so it'll be getting out. So.
Any other questions about that? Yes.
It's good, very impressive, good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I appreciate the
Yeah,
effort
good job.
from the administration.
Well, I think Laura gets a lot of that. And MSD fair too, I think.
But she has the ideas, and we just get to look at it and say, okay, this is what we'd like to change a little bit and tweak it up a little bit. But it's good to have a lot of different eyes.
I try to give her some advice. She didn't really listen to what I say. I understand how that goes.
All right. So we'll move on to new business. Recommendation to approve the revised White's Junior Senior High School 2021-2022 school calendar.
Yeah, so just to talk about that a little bit, obviously White's has a lot of different situations than our other schools. And, we went to the 4-day-a-week program. And even now, there's that gap in July. And so for various reasons, but one other educational reason is that we're having more days in July than also, but that's going to be, if you can read that, well, I'll have to blow it up a little bit here, but this is a non-traditional schedule. So these are some times that the students will be working with the teachers remotely on those different days. So we can have more days in July when they're there because they have no other schooling during that time. And of course you have kids that can be court ordered there in June, it can be July, it could be May, December, all the different times. So it basically spreads out the year even more than what it was when we had the 4 days a week. So some different situations with this, but just recommend it. It just changes a little bit. It's not too much different. It basically ends about June 28th, I believe, if I look at it again. That's by memory. Yeah, June 28th, and then adding a couple, 2 or 3 days to the July calendar, so some students are getting some extra work there too. Not any big change, but just a small.
So those pink ones are new days?
Part 2 of the pink days are new days. There were some already days in July.
Okay.
It's just basically taking the 28th, and I'd have to look at the calendar note, right there it is, obviously. The 28th, 29th, and 30th, basically taking 2 of those days and putting them into July.
Okay.
So not a big change.
Motion to approve the White's calendar changes.
Motion and second to approve the revised White's calendar. All in favor, say aye. Recommendation to approve Metro North Elementary starting time to be moved to 8:15 a.m.
And the reason for that, last year during COVID, we decided that it would be best not to have the transition time, the shuttle buses. The students go from, being at Sharp Creek, getting on another bus, and then transferring to Metro North. So last year they went directly to Metro North, so they would not have as many transitions. So we felt like that was a good change, whether it was COVID or not COVID. So the students would not be on the bus as long, and so they would not have an extra transition. Of course, being preschool all the way through just second grade now, the younger kids, it's just a little tougher to have them transfer all the time. So basically, there's no change in the transportation for this year, but the change is that they would start at 8:15 instead of like 8:30. And 8:15 really is consistent with all the other schools. Now, our junior, senior high schools are both 8:10. Sharp Creek's about 8:10, 8:15 too, because the buses all go there. And then Southwood is about the same at 8:15. So basically just aligns with all the other schools. And we
Helps
learned.
separate transportation with drop off a little
Right.
bit too. So.
Right. Yeah, so that is the recommendation.
What time can they drop kids off there?
7:45 or 7:30, I saw
I
the,
thought you said 7:30.
I think it was 7:30. Most schools are about that time, so.
So the kids go straight, they drop off still first at Northfield, and then they'll stay on that bus and go,
Depending where they're coming
Metro.
from.
If they come from the west,
they're gonna go Metro first?
Yes.
Correct.
And then drop
Yeah.
off.
yeah, and that's the same as what we did last year because of COVID, so we would not have any of this shuttling happen because of cleaning the buses and all those different things. But we found out that that's really the best for our students, not to be on the buses long and also not shuttling.
Because we'd have buses that would just pass Metro North, drive to Sharp Creek, and
Set a
then
while.
get on another bus and go back to Metro North.
So they still might have to wait as far as the educational part, but they're in the school instead of on a bus.
I move to approve the start time change from Metro North.
Motion and second to approve the starting time being changed to 8:15 at Metro North. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have no unfinished business or board policy. Any public comment for Facebook?
Laura chimed in and she said that the flyers should hit mailboxes in the next day or two.
Okay. While we're waiting to see that, I would just say that, beginning at this next school year, we are, if you remember the policy that we did with the no mask, we would also then encourage you that are watching at home to attend in an actual person, so that you can ask us questions if you need, so that we don't have to worry about whether or not there was a technical glitch. So no other comments have come in, so we'll move on to items from board members. Okay, adjourned.